Hi everyone, we're ready to read the chapter Tiger Tiger. Today we're going to read pages 73 to 83. Now we go back to the first tale when Mowgli left the jungle after his fight with the wolves at Council Rock. He went down to the village at the foot of the hill, but he did not stop there. It was too close to the jungle. He hurried on down the rough road for nearly 20 miles until he came to a place where he had never been. He stood in a valley that opened onto a plain cut up by deep streams. At one end was a village, and at the other end the thick jungle came down to touch the ground, where the cattle were grazing. When the boys in charge of the herd saw Mowgli, they shouted and ran away. The yellow dogs that hang about every Indian village barked. Mowgli kept walking. He walked right up to the village gate. To one side, Mowgli saw a big thorn bush that would be placed in front of the gate at twilight. So men are afraid of the jungle people, Mowgli said to himself. He sat down by the gate, and when a man came by, Mowgli opened his mouth and pointed into it to show that he wanted food. The man stared and ran up to the village street, shouting for the priest. Then the priest, who was a big fat man dressed in white with a red and yellow mark on his forehead, came down to the gate with at least 100 people behind him. Everyone stared and talked and shouted at Mowgli. Mowgli did not know what they were saying, for he had never learned the language of man. They have no manners, Mowgli said to himself. Only the gray ape would behave like this. He frowned at the crowd. There's nothing to be afraid of, the priest announced. Look at the marks on his arms and legs. They are wolf bites. He is nothing but a wolf child run away from the jungle. Mowgli's limbs were covered in little white scars where the cubs had nipped him harder than they had meant to when they played together. But Mowgli would never have called them bites, for he knew what a real bite was. 2 or 3 of the women cried out, "Poor child, bitten by wolves. He's a handsome boy. Musa, doesn't he look like your boy, the one that was taken by the tiger?" "Let me look," said the woman with heavy copper rings on her wrists and ankles. She peered at Mowgli beneath her palm. "He is thinner," she said, "but he has the look of my boy." The clever priest knew Musa had a rich husband who could afford to take in the boy. So he looked up at the sky for a moment and said solemnly, "What the jungle has taken, the jungle has restored. Sister, take the boy to your house." "By the buffalo that brought me," Mowgli said to himself, "all this talk is like the looking over of the pack. But if I am truly a man I must become." He followed the beckoning woman to her hut. Musa gave Mowgli a long drink of milk and some bread. Then she looked into his eyes. She thought he might truly be her son. "Natho, Natho," she called him. "Do you remember when I gave you your first shoes?" She touched his feet. The bottoms were as hard as horn, and Mowgli did not show any sign of remembering. "No," Musa sighed. "These feet have never worn shoes, but you are like my Nathu, and you will be my son." Mowgli felt uneasy. He had never been under a roof before, but when he looked closer, he saw that he could tear the thatch away if he needed to escape. What good is a man if he doesn't understand men's talk, Mowgli thought. I must learn to speak like the people of the village. So as soon as Musa pronounced a word, Mowgli intimidated it, almost perfectly. Before dark, he had learned the names of many things in the hut. Bedtime was difficult. Mowgli did not want to sleep under anything that looked like a panther trap. When Mowgli's new parents shut the door, Mowgli went out to the window. "Let him go," said Musa's husband. "He has never slept in a bed before, and if he truly is our son, he will not run away." Mowgli stretched out in some clean grass on the edge of the field, but before he had closed his eyes, a soft gray nose poked him under the chin. "Phew," said Gray Brother, the oldest of Mother's wolf cubs. "Little brother, you smell of wood smoke and cattle, like a man. This is the reward I get for following you 20 miles? Mowgli hugged the wolf. "Are all well in the jungle?" he asked. "All except the wolves burned by the red flower and Shere Khan. He has gone to hunt far away until his coat grows back. But listen, he has promised that when he returns, he will lay your bones in the Wangongo River," Gray Brother said. "I have made a promise myself," Mowgli replied. "Tonight I am tired from so many new things. But it is good to have news. Gray Brother, will you always bring me the news?" "Will you forget you are a wolf?" Gray Brother asked anxiously. "Never. I will always remember that I love you and the others that grew up in our cave," Mowgli answered. "But I will also remember that I have been cast out of the pack. You may be cast out of another pack. Men are only men, little brother," Gray Wolf said. "When I come next, I will wait in the bamboo at the edge of the grazing ground." For 3 months, Mowgli hardly left the village gate. He was busy learning ways of men. He had to wear a cloth around his waist, which annoyed him terribly. He had to learn about money, which he did not understand at all. He also learned to plow the field, which he thought was useless. The other children in the village were not always nice to Mowgli. Luckily, the law of the jungle had taught him to keep his temper. That, and the knowledge that it was unsportsmanlike to kill naked cubs, kept him from hurting the children in the village when they made fun of him. Mowgli could have caused a lot of damage. In the jungle, he was weak compared to the beasts, but in the village, Mowgli was said to be as strong as a buffalo. Many of the village rules confused Mowgli. He did not understand the strange customs of men, so he made many mistakes. To keep Mowgli out of trouble, the priest recommended that he be sent to work as soon as possible. When the village headsman assigned Mowgli to take the buffalo out to graze the next day, no one was happier than Mowgli. The night he was appointed to be a herder, Mowgli went to the village circle. The men of the village met under a great fig tree to smoke and gossip. The headman and barber and old Buldeo, the village hunter, were gathered there, along with many others. They sat around late into the night telling wonderful tales of gods and men and ghosts. Above them, the monkeys listened in the trees. Below them, under a platform, a scared cobra lay curled up with a plate of milk. Old Buldeo told the best tales. When he spoke of the ways of the jungle beasts, the eyes of the children listening, just outside the circle, bulged out of their heads. Naturally, Mowgli knew more about the beast than Buldeo. As Buldeo spoke, Mowgli had to cover his face so the villagers couldn't see him laughing. Buldeo told everyone that the tiger who took Musa's son was really a ghost tiger, whose body was inhabited by the spirit of the long-dead moneylender. I know it is true because the tiger walked with a limp, just as Purun Dass did. He got the limp in a riot when his accounting books were burned. The graybeards nodded together. True, true, they said. Mowgli's shoulders shook with laughter. All of these tales are nonsense, he said. Everyone knows that Shere Khan was born lame. For a moment, Buldeo was speechless. Ho-ho! If you're so smart, perhaps you should bring the tiger's hide to Kilowara. The government has promised 100 rupees for it. Better yet, jungle brat, do not speak when your elders are talking. Mowgli's laughter turned to anger. He did not like to be scolded, and he stalked off. It is high time that boy went herding, the headsman said as Mowgli walked away from the circle. The next morning, Mowgli rode through the village on the back of Rama, the great herd bull. The buffalo rose up from their mangers, one by one, to follow him. In most Indian villages, it is the job of a few young boys to take the domestic cattle and water buffalo out to graze in the morning and bring them back at night. As long as the boys stay with the herds, they are safe, for not even a tiger will charge a mob of cattle. Mowgli quickly made it clear to the other children tending the herds that he was in charge. He told the other boys to graze the cattle while he went on with the little buffalo. Then he drove the buffalo to the edge of the jungle, dropped off Rama's neck, and trotted over to a clump of bamboo. I have been waiting for days, Gray Brother said, emerging from the foliage. What are you doing herding? It is an order. I'm working for the village, Mowgli replied impatiently. Now, tell me about Shere Khan. He came back and waited for you for a long time, Gray Brother said. But now he is gone again because food is scarce. Still, he intends to kill you. Good, said Mowgli. As long as he is away, I want you or one of your brothers to sit upon that rock so I can see you as I ride out of the village. When he returns, wait for me by the ravine, by the great tree in the center of the plain. I will not walk into Shere Khan's mouth. So next time we read, we'll find out if Mowgli gets Shere Khan and his hide or if Shere Khan finally kills Mowgli.